God bless. I want to give honor to God who is the head over my life. Go to Genesis 37. We're going to be reading 1 through 1 through 10. The subject is Joseph's dream. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the son of Bela and the son of Zilpah. His father's wives, he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age. He made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding shafts of grain, but in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rows had stood up, right while your sheaf gathered around mine bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to region over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun, moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is the dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Okay. As you listen to this story, Joseph was a gifted son. God gave him a gift of dreams, which made him a seer. And this, it talks about how Joseph was his father's favorite because in his old age he conceived him. Okay. And it also talks about how now Israel had loved Joseph more than any of the other sons because he had been born to him in his old age. And he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw their father loved him, and this it was talking about, if you go with me to verse 4, it was talking about how Joseph's father loved him more than any of them. And Joseph's siblings hated that his father loved Joseph more than any of his other siblings. So they hated him and would not speak a kind word to him. If you go on verse 5, it says Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated them. They hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream. We are binding sheaves of grain out in the field, and when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood up while your sheaf gathered around and bowed down." His brothers said to him, "Do not intend to region over us. Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him. So Joseph's brothers hated him because God had put him in a position that they would be under Joseph but Joseph would be the ruler of a nation. Do you intend to region over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because his dream and what he had said. If you go with me to verse 9, it says, Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon, elevate stars, were bowing down to me. When he told his father as well as his brothers, and his fathers rebuked him and said, What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter to mind. In this, Joseph was a gifted son. Not only was he a gifted son, but Joseph was the young son. The son that his father got, he could no longer make any kids. Okay. When God blessed Joseph's father with Joseph, he thought it was a miracle from God. Okay. So in this, Joseph was his father's favorite. But the other siblings could not understand why. All that they knew is that their father made a child at his old age and named him Joseph. But Joseph was not only the child that his father made, but Joseph was also a gift from God. Joseph was also a seer that could see things from above and see the things their siblings did not understand was God was using Joseph for his own glory. Joseph had a dream, okay? This was a dream from God that he would rule a nation. But his brothers or siblings did not like the dream that Joseph was presenting to them because it meant that they would have to be under Joseph, that everything, every nation, every living creature would be given to Joseph because God appointed Joseph to rule a nation. Go to Genesis chapter 37, verses 1 through 10. The subject is Joseph's dream. God bless.